You know, people are always talking about which lens is the best for whatever situation. But I'm going to talk about a lens today which I think everybody should have. And I'm going to give 5 reasons why you should have a 50mm lens. Let's go. One of the great reasons for having a 50mm lens is that they're small and light. This is a 51.8G, but even f1.4G is not that much bigger than this. And when you compare it to a 35 f1.4, 85 1.4, or even f1.8, the size difference is quite significant. And of course, when you have a lens this small, what do? You put a big, bloody, huge body like the D700 on it. I love coming to this area of Hong Kong because when you look around, it's just like car crash city. You don't want any of this to happen to you or anybody you know. But you can't help but look at all this shit. That's great. That's cheap. Is that for the lighters or that? Is that for that Motorola phone?
It's for the lighter.
Oh, lighter. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll start putting my name on my equipment so people don't touch it. Keep your filthy hands off. That's my name. When you want to take street photos or any kind of photos, you don't always want to be lugging around a huge load of equipment. And D700 is heavy enough, so having a light lens like this, plasticky number, it's great.
The less weight with you, the less you complain about the burning of the lactic acid as you lug the hunk of gear around, which means more time spent concentrating on shooting.
That's a great Christmas game. I mean, I think I'll probably get one of the kids, not my kids, one of these for Christmas, save some money, more for me. I don't know whether to take a picture or help. The latter. Well, reason number 2 is number 1. reason number 2, I won't do that. Reason number 2 is that it makes you think because you're fixed with a 50mm lens. You have to, instead of using a zoom, use your feet to go close like that. The reason why is because the 50mm lens is quite close to what your eyes see. In fact, you can actually replace your eyes with 2 of these lenses and put some digital sensors in your brain, and then preferably a Canon one because they take movies a lot better than Nikon, and it worked just fine. And people look at me as if I've got AIDS or you know, some other weird illness.
With a prime like the 50, you're spending a lot of time thinking about what's in the frame. You pick things that look right in that 3x2 box. Zooming makes it all too easy to just point and shoot without making sure the bits in the frame look right.
So if I want to zoom, I'll just stand right here instead of actually moving to get the shot. But the thing is, when you zoom in and out, it's different because if you have it on a wide angle, you've got more stuff. A lot of times it's quite messy. And of course, when you have it on the telly length, it just looks different. The 50 just looks right. When you compare it to a telly lens, of course, with a telly, you have to really zoom in to get into the shot, and it just feels slightly disconnected and a little bit pervy. When you shoot with a 50, it feels just right because it feels like you've actually taken a shot right down then. You can smell the pork fat and dripping coming off his fingers. Probably doesn't wash his hands either. I think it's really important that it makes you think about your shot, because when you're just using the zoom and then putting everything in the frame, shot done. With this, you kind of look at your subject in the background and you think, does it fit? And when you try to make it fit, you kind of move in and out. Well, some people might think it's a bit of a difficult concept to grasp to actively get your shot by moving backwards and forwards, but you get used to it. And after a while, you just know where those 50mm lines end. And getting that shot really doesn't take that long. This is a open air gym, free, no, not free membership, $100 a month, and yeah, personalised trainer. So keep running. Yeah, good. And point number 3 is that the 50mm focal length just looks right. In a way, it's quite hard to explain, but the 35mm lens just gives too much of the view. Of course, the tele to portraits. Slightly slow shutter speeds. Let's get the people walking past.
Well, technically, the image diagonal of a full-frame sensor is 43mm, which means a more suitable normal lens is a 43mm lens. But 50mm has been the standard for longer than Hugh Hefner has been playing hide the carrot with his bunnies. 35mm or wider can be alright, but sometimes more information in one frame is not necessarily a good thing. A 35 seems like the right lens for street shooting, especially in tight spaces, but everything from a 50mm looks just better.
So tempted to get one of the police, see if he'll shoot back. Of course, I don't want him to shoot back because I'll be dead. What happens when a chicken crosses the road? That's what happens. Gets run over. They're stuck. They don't know. You know, let's not be duckist. Chicken. Oh, bloody hell, there's a lion there. Me. It's great because I've got a picture of that kid looking at it as if it's like, bloody hell, what's that? The tiger's been let out. Anyway, just say lion or tiger. There's a lion, wasn't it? Another great thing is that it's versatile. When you could go around the streets with just this lens, go around a lot of places with just this lens. Because it just sits nicely in the middle of everything. Not too wide, not too long. You can use it for landscapes, portraits. You know, if you wanted to just carry one lens around with you, the 50mm lens is probably the one to carry around with you, at least for me anyway. I won't get swiped through that much.
Alright, it's not going to do things like shooting feather tits from a long distance that well, but supposing you only had one lens, then this would be useful for a number of things.
Of course, one of the great things, probably the most important, for me at least, is that with a 50mm, well, a lot of them have fast apertures, which means bokeh.
Getting that creamy dairy-like bokeh is nice with a 50 because you get thinner depth of field than a 35, without being too long like an 85 as to put your subject out of context with the environment. In geeky terms, shooting at 1 meter from your subject, you get just 4 centimeters of things in focus with a 51.8. But you don't need to know that. All you need to know is bokeh.
You can really isolate your subject with a large aperture, and at this focal length, 2 shots nice and tidy, like a Teflon poo. So there you have it. That's 5 reasons why you should have a 50mm lens. In fact, there is no reason why you shouldn't have it unless you're physically scared of 50mm lenses. In fact, there's a 6th reason: price. If you get a 1.8D version of this, which is the G, it's in fact really quite cheap. So buy it now.
Of course, there's a right lens for everyone, and the 50mm isn't necessarily everybody's ideal one lens setup. Mind you, 50mm lenses are cheaper than the same speed counterparts in different focal lengths, so there is no reason not to try a 50 unless you're allergic to the number 50. Apart from being the standard focal length, it is also a staple part of 35mm photography, and arguably something that has to be done at some point when you get into photography. There's something quite therapeutic about shooting with one. It's zen-like. It keeps you grounded and creatively stimulated. Oh yeah, and don't forget the bokeh.